Hello, my name is Roger Wydner. I'm a former attorney and public prosecutor. 40 years ago, I ran the Consumer Fraud Department in the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. I ran for governor in 1998 on the Reform Party candidate to awaken and alert the citizens of Oregon of the extremely serious corruption problem that is going on in our state government, and in particularly in our court system. For attempting as a former public prosecutor to make a public record of innocent people in this state having their children, their property, and their freedoms stripped from them in sham, often star chamber type judicial proceedings. I have been repeatedly arrested 23 times in the last 26 years, many times violently, in courthouses, in courtrooms, in the state capitol, in the Supreme Court, for trying to speak openly, candidly, and factually about this victimization that is going on with innocent people in this state. I've had as a support team, thank God, my parents, Francis and Leo Wydner, and a picture here of them taken years ago, and this is a picture of them here on the backside outside the state capitol in 1995 when I was being held in the insane asylum for attempting to speak like I'm speaking to you in Judge Dorothy Baker's courtroom. So this is the fight that I've been in, and I have been fortunate to have as a brother Bruce Wydner, spells his name differently, but we're brothers, who is the inventor of natural language processing. He's here, along with Griffin, who is a world-recognized historian. He's the author of several very well-known books, including Descent into Slavery, Storming the Gates of Hell, and The Fourth Reich of the Rich. He is also the editor and publisher of The Midnight Messenger, which is exposing this cancer, no other word for it, this cancer called corruption that has been destroying the lives of so many innocent people here in the state of Oregon the last 25 years that I've been fighting it. So, Des, why don't you heard me introduce you about what you have been doing and what you've been up to, and the paper that you have put out. What else would you like to say to the people about what needs to be done? You've been doing this how long now? 40 years?
Almost 60 years, actually.
Almost 60 years. And
with regard to research, yes.
Yeah. And you got into this. How did it happen that you got 60 years ago? You got involved exposing this corruption in the system.
During the mid-1950s, I was living in the London area, and at that time there was the Hungarian uprising and the Suez Canal debacle. And although I didn't have any background in politics or history, I sensed that the various stories that we were being told on TV and radio and in the newspapers wasn't true. I didn't know why, and then I just knew instinctively, had a gut feeling that what we were hearing and reading wasn't the truth. And it wasn't until about 15 to 20 years later, in the meantime, I had moved from England to Canada for a couple of years, and then I came down to live in California. And I just happened to be in of all places, it's a second-hand bookstore, and I saw a small book called Fabians Fight Freedom. I'd never heard of the Fabians before, but for some reason or another, I picked it up and bought it. It was probably 10 cents at the time. And that was the first clue that I had that there was some power acting behind the scenes, manipulating world events and working towards what later I recognized as the New World Order. We have nationally and internationally globally, a movement directed by that invisible government with headquarters in the City of London, working towards the destruction of national sovereignty and the creation of a new world government.
Mm-hmm. And so out of that curiosity in the first instance, that prompted you then to get into researching all of this that was going on, and resulting in these books that you have written, and that you've been summarizing what you've written in the books in the newspaper Midnight Messenger.
Well, the main purpose of Midnight Messenger, as well as carrying various articles from different places by different authors, is to keep the readers up to date on what's going on year by year and decade by decade. And
have you had any anything that you've said in these papers? Have they disputed any of your accusations?
I can only remember one occasion, which was a few years ago, when an individual, I can't remember who it was, zeroed in on one aspect of what I said, and technically he was correct, but overall he wasn't. One of the things I try to do, and this is something I spend literally hours a day on the internet, is checking documentation, background, history, etc. And for virtually every quote or every fact that I quote, I try to have six or seven sources to go to. And as a result of that, I know I haven't. But the thing is that what has emerged in the overall scheme of things is the fact that, unfortunately, many, if not most, Americans are extremely naive, that they are suckers for, that they, particularly politically, economically, religiously, they virtually accept verbatim what people say. But what they need to do is to, what I jokingly refer to as become fruit inspectors.
Yes.
It is by their fruits that you shall know them, as Scripture says. And unfortunately, they haven't been taught. They should be taught to be fruit inspectors at home, in the churches, in society at large. But if they were fruit inspectors, then you wouldn't have the society in which we're living today.
Yeah. Well, so you have been doing this now for almost 60 years as a duty to alert and awaken the citizenry to the reality of the world that they're actually in.
My research, well, the thoughts and ideas and questions began to arise, as I said earlier, in 1956, the Suez Crisis and the Hungarian uprising.
Yes.
But I didn't really start heavy-duty research until about 1967, 1968.
Now, you've gone around the world. I mean, you've spoken in foreign countries, have you?
Well, in England, yes, at a tour of Japan, going back about 17 or 18 years ago.
And speaking just like you're speaking now about all of this that's going on, and no one challenging you?
As a matter of fact, I was remarkably well received over in Japan, and in company with Eustace Mullins, who died a few years ago. We toured Japan, Tokyo, Sapporo in the north, all the way down to Fukuoka in the south, and about 6 or 7 other cities in between. And we were very well received all along the way, and people wanted to know what was going on, particularly with regard to the various world wars, the history of the world wars, how they were created, how they were manipulated, and how they were used.
This is the history of the world since World War I?
It began at the turn of the last century, yes.
Yep.
And
Spanish-American War?
Well, that was the beginning. Well, if you eliminate the Civil War,
yes,
but it really began on this side of the ocean with the Spanish-American War, and then the purpose overall was to set in motion the means of destroying national sovereignty, and then ultimately merging all nations into a new world order, a one world government.
And how they do that, listeners, as a former prosecutor, as a government prosecutor, is how they do that is by taking over control of the courtroom and the court process. So it makes no difference what the facts are out there. You have these attorneys who are all ensuring and protecting one another, and they have a line that they're going to follow, and ignoring the facts. And covering up and perpetuating the corruption that's going on, that I've been investigating and prosecuting as a prosecutor. I'm not just investigating, I'm prosecuting and have been prosecuting these attorneys and judges, charging them. I've had 9 judges on the stand, attorneys running out of the courtroom, running down the hall. When I'm, come here, I want to talk to you about the corruption. They can't stand to be confronted. My mother chased Ed Peterson out of the courthouse when she. After he said I could speak, and then said no, and I was arrested, and she chased him out. Now that's what's going on. So does this paper, your Midnight Messenger, can you tell them about the paper a little bit?
Yeah. At the moment, Midnight Messenger comes out 4 times a year. It used to be 6 times a year, but and a number of other things have interrupted that schedule. It's now 4 times a year. And hopefully it'll return to its original schedule. But the purpose of the whole thing is to document the background of what's going on and why it's going on, and get people thinking and asking questions and researching and documenting. Like for example, the current issue is enslaved by a den of vipers. That refers to a quote of Andrew Jackson.
Yes.
He called the international bankers' headquarters in London as being a band of vipers. Yeah. And of course, he wasn't alone in that. Jefferson essentially said the same thing. Congressman Louis T. McFadden said the same thing. Charles Lindbergh Jr. and Sr., Senior and Junior, said exactly the same thing, as have many, many others, including more recently Ron Paul.
Yes. Well, so this paper is, and you can get a subscription.
You can call us up, 503-824-2050.
And to get this, and I can't tell you how important it is, people, as a prosecutor now, that what Des has been doing all of these years, documenting this, turning the lights on him. And now what this other guest of mine, this brother of mine, has done is really help turn the lights on him by the creation of the internet. And it still boggles my mind what my brother has done. Bruce, I don't know that his father would even understand it, but our straight arrow father. But Bruce, this is, I'm still stunned by what it is that you have done. And you know, of course, I've only, as I said, I've known you 75 years. But to do what you've done, creating the ARPANET. So background, you worked for the United States as a translator. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically, I had a translation service in Washington, D.C., and almost all my work was for the Assistant Chief of Staff of Intelligence at the Army over in the Pentagon across the river. And the thing is, I professionally translated 11 European languages into English, And while I was doing that for the Pentagon there, this one supervisor of mine, he urged me to write a textbook that tells how I was able to learn languages so fast. And so I did that, and then that's the story here that I'm here to tell.
Yes, and so that is what got you into this, but you weren't aware of what your creation had done. How you found out about that after the fact?
Yeah, the thing is that now this is a bunch of history that he's heard a few times. You know, the thing is that we've had two great heroes in this country. People like Des would, be so thankful for. President Eisenhower and President Reagan. Okay, now President Eisenhower, he knew how evil the Soviet Union was, and so he planned the Reagan Star Wars program that stopped this crazy mutually assured destruction by intercontinental ballistic missiles with hydrogen bomb warheads, Cold War. Now, just one thing, the U.S. government had to go $1.5 trillion a year further in debt to the Federal Reserve to stay in the Cold War, and then, but that was stopped by the Reagan Star Wars program. So anyway, the thing is that what President Eisenhower did is he began this by he knew that if the Soviet Union would have found out about the Reagan Star Wars program before we had it ready, they probably would have started World War III to stay in existence rather than go out of existence like that. But what he did is he camouflaged it. And he said, we want to have a worldwide interlingual telecommunications utility that'll translate from all the thousands of languages of the world into our world language of North American English and back. And people all over the world, they'll see how much better it is, because this will translate their email messages from their cell phones into the world language of North American English and back. And they'll be able to see how much better it is to go into business with the free enterprise system of North America than to be enslaved by some communist party someplace, So that's what he said. However, he was a military general, okay? And so what he did, he went to Al Gore's father. Now this is what Al Gore has to do with the internet, okay? That's all that he has to do with it. And Al Gore's father was a senator over the U.S. Highway Committee there in the U.S. Senate. And he got him to pass the Interstate Freeway Act. And then when he did that, then in military secrecy, the Defense Department they had their Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA, bury this fiber optic cable network under all the freeways as they were being made, okay? And then what they did is they were talking about how this worldwide utility would happen, and because of that, there was one organization in the Intermountain West that does all kinds of translation, and they thought it was so wonderful. But in November 1966, the National Science Foundation, etc., they made the government admit they hadn't made any progress at all toward the basic invention that was needed, which was the cost-effective computerized translation of languages that ARPA would name human language technology. And then ARPA was going to have a secret organization make that human language technology into the intelligent systems technology that would activate this ARPANET, okay? And now I'll get around to the whole point of that just after a bit. And so anyway, the thing is, when the government had to admit that there's, in the Intermountain West, there's a culture there that is very into all the world languages, and it translates from North American English into the world language of North American English into 130 languages. There's probably nothing else in the world like that. And they were so decimated when when they heard that there wasn't going to be a worldwide interlingual telecommunications utility like this, they were so decimated that they said, well, then we will do it. And so they had a local university down there keep on trying. And what I have done, I taught first year French, first year German, first year Spanish out here at Mount Hood Community College here in Oregon. And then, but my students, they wanted a textbook. After I worked as a translator back in D.C., you know, beside my supervisors saying that, my students wanted one. So I got visiting faculty privileges down at UCLA, and I wrote this textbook. And then I had my brother copyright it for me, and then I went down to this university in Utah to introduce it, and they were trying to make the software that would activate this worldwide interlingual telecommunications utility, and they just weren't having any luck at all. But after I was down there for 5.5 years, it dawned on me, this program will do it, you know. And a year and a half later, we were written up in the Wall Street Journal that I had invented the cost-effective computerized translation of human languages, and the Defense Department's ARPA, they said, this is the human language technology of all the languages in the world. This is HLT. And then they went to this this fellow who's a famous inventor, and he was talked into setting up something like the Stanford Research Institute, backed by this big university, and the big university was trying to make human language technology, and then this center nearby was going to make it into the intelligent systems technology to activate the ARPANET. And that went on for years, nothing happened. But when mine was written up in the Wall Street Journal, I used that center that was there. I hired them to introduce my invention to the world. But when it was written up in the October 24th, 1978 edition of the Wall Street Journal, then the Defense Department, now I love the Defense Department, I used to work there, but what they do is they protect our lives for us, okay? And so the point is they couldn't let anybody know about this until Reagan told Gorbachev, because the Soviet Union might have started the Third World War rather than go out of existence. So anyway, but the people who made that center, 21 years after that, written up in the Wall Street Journal, they finally told me what had happened, you know, but it took 21 years. But so the thing is then, is that when that was written up like that in the Wall Street Journal, then there's a large Air Force base in northern Utah.
What was said in the Wall Street Journal, Bruce? Yeah,
basically what it said is, the thing is, I wondered how I was going to introduce this to the world, and I called up, and there's this one guy, he was from Hungary, and he had this huge program that you work on a giant big computer, and it could translate something, but it was just so expensive and everything. And I called him up, and I told him we were doing it there at the Iron Research Institute, and we were going to do it with a $7,000 mini computer, you know. And so he says, call up the president of the American Translators Association and have him come and look at this, you know, the president-elect of the American. So I called him up, and he said he'd come, you know, but I didn't know that this guy that had the big thing that was so, you know, expensive, he told the president-elect of the American Translators Association, there are these idiot hippies there in the Intermountain West, and they think that they can make a computer translate cost effectively. Go on up and see with their demonstration, and then when you have the annual convention of the American Translators Association in Manhattan in 2 months, when you have that, the thing is that when you tell them about what these stupid hippies are trying to do, you'll get such a laugh, and this will be the way to introduce you, you know. So he came to our thing, and the point is, he was told a bunch of hippies. When I came out in a business suit and shook their hand, he turned red, you know, and also he had the top expert of the American Translators Association proving you cannot use computers in the translation industry, you know, and he taught Spanish into English translation at Kent State University. So the two of them, they came there, you know, but then when we took them in this room and told them a bunch of things, they turned red when they first saw me, you know, this guy doesn't look like a hippie, you know. But then after we demonstrated and everything, or we told him everything, this guy, he said, now I understood this was going to be a hands-on demonstration, and so my associate at the computer, he turned around, and this is something that never had been said before. Normally, if you ask somebody how the system worked, they'd say, well, give me a sentence, but make sure that all the nouns are in the singular and all the verbs are in the present tense. My guy said, give me a sentence, any sentence. So these two guys, they put their head together, and they came with this great, big, long, complicated Spanish sentence. And my guy put it in the computer and pushed the button, and it came out perfect English. And the fellow that ran this this research institute, what he did, he was peeking at us through the keyhole into what was happening, you know. And when we opened the door up, and he was looking like that, and he was kind of embarrassed. But then he asked the president of the American Translators Association, he said, well, what did you think of the demonstration? And the president of the American Translators Association, he said, I came here as a total skeptic. I've never been converted to anything so fast in my life, okay? And then that's what was written up in the Wall Street Journal. He says, this is a dynamic new approach and a great help. That's what he said in the Wall Street Journal. And so then they had this big convention back in Manhattan, and we went back there. And the same thing happened with all the translators. And oh boy, you know, and so the Defense Department, they had been paying this research institute a little bit every year. You know, it had been making about $2 million a year from a whole bunch of people. But as soon as that was written up in the Wall Street Journal, the Defense Department jumped them up to $8 million a year, and they had all these employees, and there's so many of them were at the building of this research center. But they had 75 full-time employees up at, there's this huge Air Force base in northern Utah called Hill Air Force Base. And they have this, the Missile Directorate of the U.S. Air Force has these giant computers there and everything. And what they did is they took that human language technology, and then this research institute made it into the intelligent systems technology to activate the Defense Department's the Missile Directorate's computer there. Now, then here's the whole thing. Now, our beloved Ronald Reagan, he's everybody's hero, okay? But this is what he did. He went over and he met with Gorbachev, the leader of the Soviet Union. And he said, now, we have this huge computer at Hill Air Force Base. And these people there in the Intermountain West, they've developed our human language technology, from their invention of human language technology, they've invented the intelligent system technology to activate that. Now that great big computer there, we call it the Missile Directorate, it can so precisely direct through that that software, through these fiber optic cables under all the freeways, to the computer chip that we've installed on every single missile in the U.S. Missile Force. And that can so precisely direct all these missiles that if a foreign country ever tried to launch intercontinental ballistic missiles against the United States, the thing is that that big computer, it can so precisely direct every anti-ballistic missile in our missile force, we can knock down almost every one of them out over the oceans where they couldn't do any damage to us. Now, this is our president talking, our movie star hero, you know. He says, but if one did get through one of these intercontinental ballistic missiles and its hydrogen bomb warhead exploded someplace here in North America, now this is our president talking, he said the people would be so furious they'd make us launch almost all of our missiles back. And if it was the Soviet Union that sent them, well, there wouldn't hardly anything left of what used to be Russia. Gorbachev says, okay, you guys win the Cold War, goodbye. You know, please don't keep doing things like this. And so then the government started letting the people use the ARPANET, and they renamed it the Internet. But Bill Gates said that there's this confusion, you know, about this network of cables under the freeways and everything, the ARPA net, and they totally miss out where does the software come from, you know, and the software came from this translator at the Pentagon, you know, and that I was urged to do that, and so the thing is that. And now this is my brother's problem here that he wants told and everything. The thing is, all of these things, you know, the internet and all these things, this ARPA, they changed their name after that to DARPA, the Defense Department's Advanced Research Projects Agency. And they gave a big thing down in California, you know, in 2001 or 2, something like that. And this leader there, he was talking about how the information explosion age that has come because of all these things that we've done, you know, with this invention of human language technology and the intelligent system technology and everything. And he says the government works on this so much today, and all the Defense Department's operating on so much. However, when our thing was written up in the Wall Street Journal, the local newspaper back there said the computer automatically does 85% of the functions of the human mind, you know, automatically, instantaneously. But this guy down at ARPA he says, but that missing code means that the cost of keeping things running just grows and grows. That's what's bankrupting us today, not the Cold War anymore. We have to pay let me see, yeah, the Federal Reserve, we had to borrow $1.5 trillion more every year. That's not what bankrupting is. Bankrupting, we don't know that missing code. Maybe in 1 or 2 dozen years, somebody's going to come along to figure it out. Okay, so that was about 2001. 1,000 years was last year. 1 dozen years was last year, you know. Okay, now, so this is the whole point, everybody. We've had that thing working at the 100% level now. Ever since I first showed it there, I just had a little bit, you know, that we showed commercially, but we show how it works at the 100% level. Okay, so now here is the issue, okay? This man over here, his 10th great grandfather was the founder of the colony of Connecticut. And if you see on Connecticut license plates, it doesn't say world famous potatoes like Idaho. It says the Constitution state, you know. Our 10th great grandfather, he invented the world's first written constitution. He was the foremost Puritan minister of Old England, but he had to get out of there because they were going to have the Commonwealth monarchy civil war, and the monarch was going to have him beheaded. So he came over, and his parish founded Cambridge, Massachusetts, and then he started Harvard University there with the Graduate School of Divinity there. But then a member of their parish over in Old England, he was a member of he was the Lord High Admiral of England, and he was one of the directors of the New England thing, and so, but he gave the right to this group to set up Connecticut from the 41st parallel to the 42nd, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and so they set that up, and then they had the world's first written constitution, and then New England loved it so much that they came together, and they came together with the world's second written constitution, and what they said is, and now here's the whole thing. They said, now, unlike the Spaniards, we know these people aren't the people from India that was trying to conquer Spain, okay? That's what the Spaniards said, so they could take over and steal everything. This isn't India, you know. These people are innocent here. And the only way that we can be here is if they invite us to be here, these native owners of the land. And the way that we'll get them to invite us here, now this is our history here, they said, we're going to divide the whole North American continent up into townships. And every township has to have an elementary school. A bunch of townships will make a county, and every county has to have a high school. And all of our kids have to go, and we'll very nicely invite all the Native Americans to come to as well. And if they do, and they learn how we have the highest standard of living in the world, and they have, so many of them have such a low standard of living. When they learn that, they think, oh, that's neat. And then after they graduate from their high school, if they're real nice boys and girls, they can come to Massachusetts, Harvard, or Connecticut's Yale University, and they will see what it is that we have that lets us have the highest standard of living in the world, you know. And then that, by our law, these people aren't Indians. India had been, after the Mohammedans, the Crusades were over, so to speak, Mohammedans kept, the Caliph in India kept sending Mohammedans across through Egypt, over North Africa, into Spain, to try to conquer Europe that way, you know. And this Columbus said, I'll go over, I think I can go across the Atlantic and get to India, and I'll blow their harbors to pieces from my, and they came over to the, to Cuba and Puerto Rico, and they said, oh, New Guinea and Borneo, you know, these are the Indies, and we still call them the Indies to this day, you know, the West Indies, and so they went into Mexico and they said, oh, these people are Indians. We'll take all their gold because they've been attacking us. Now, the thing is, after Magellan went down around Cape Horn and he found there's a whole Pacific Ocean over there, he said, these people are innocent. We can't. And so the Puritans in New England, they said, you know, the only way that our law, our ancestral law, will allow us to be here, if these people invite us to be here, and the reason they'll invite us, because we have the highest standard of living in the world, and we will share these truths that we know with them. We'll share our law, and then they'll say, oh, it's so much better to live your way rather than for us to starve to death and be killed by all the little diseases that you guys know.
Focus on your technology. That's what the listeners are really focused on. Is that so? Right now, what the internet out there, has there been anyone that has questioned or disputed any of the factual statements that you have made about your involvement in this?
No. The point is that, you know, I'm famous over in Europe, but here in this country, you know, it's best not to try to be I mean, President Reagan, bless his heart, he was a great movie star and everything, but to get things done, you know, that's our ancestral heritage of our free enterprise system, is just get working. And so what we have, we've demonstrated in a number of entities how the 100% works. And the whole world wants it, you know. And now
and what's holding it up?
Okay, well, the point is you know, just like he's talking about how the naughties in the world try to run the world by ignorance, you know, the poor people are ignorant, but this country was set up to bring learning here to the native owners of this hemisphere, you know, and because it was so wonderful that they invited, oh, thank you for coming here, and we're not dying at 20 and 30 years of age now because of stupid little illnesses we get. You guys with your doctors are showing us how to live longer, you know, and to be healthy and eat right. And so thank you for coming. And so anyway, that's one thing. But the whole point is that there's the whole world there as well. The whole world wants this. And so the issue is for us to make it available to the whole world, like our beloved President Eisenhower. I mean, this is what he told the world, you know. We're going to make this worldwide interlingual telecommunications utility. Now, in secret, he was making the Reagan Star Wars program, and that's fine, and we don't have to go into debt to the Federal Reserve, $1.5 trillion for that. But because the thing is working with this missing code, that debt's still there. It says, our DARPA says it's bankrupting the country, and so what we can do is we have it all ready to work. But now this is the main thing. This is why my brother asked me to come here, okay? The issue is our culture of our 10th great-grandfather and other people came over and founded New England, along with some of our ancestors came over on the Mayflower and everything. And what they, on the Mayflower, what they did is, one of them was reading the Bible, and St. Paul said, if we really want to be followers of the Lord Jesus Christ, we have to be pilgrims on the face of the earth. So they said, oh, we'll be pilgrims, you know. And so that's our, the thing is, our little uncle, our nephew, pardon me, our ancestor there of this one family, they named him Resolved White because they resolved to come over here, but then when they read that, they named the little boy Peregrine White because we were the Puritan pilgrims, you know. Peregrine means a pilgrim. And so the thing is, we came over here to do this and to help all these people here, the native people here. But now the whole world wants this. And the issue is, and this is everything, I mean, we've been telling the Native Americans how we work together by our ancestral free enterprise system. The whole point is for all of us to work together by our ancestral free enterprise system to show everybody in the world how they can share with us the highest standard of living of everybody in the world. And then by doing that, the whole world will say, well, of course you guys are invited to be here in America. That's your law, you know. We're all so grateful that you came over to this best part of the planet and with your best part of way of doing things.
But the impact, brother, I said right now, it's, you speak these different 10, 12.
Okay, yeah. What I've done, I professionally translated 11 European languages into English. I speak 9 of them, but along with English, that makes 10. And then I've had to work with a lot of other languages, like Japanese, you know. I say, Watashi no namai wa Wydner desu, you know, I do that. And then in Hindi, I say, Hindi chitare ne bol sakta, you know.
Go through the other languages, Bruce. German and...
Okay, well, yeah. Я говорю по-русски, работал как переводчик. That's Russian, you know. I worked as a translator. And then, Amina oli lahitu sarnaya suomessa, Amina puhun suomen kieltä, that's Finnish. Jag kan också tala på svenska. I Finland, vi talar på svenska also. And then, he and I, vi är halvnorsk. Our mother's parents both came from Norway. Jag kan snacka på norsk. Dansk är nästan samma som norsk, jag snackar på dansk, that's Danish. Ich kann fließendes Deutsch sprechen, weil ich bin ein Sprachübersetzer und auch Unterrichter. I was a translator and teacher. Alors, nous parlons français chez nous, and my family, we speak French. Pero idioma principal que nosotros hablamos es español, that's Spanish. And then, português é quase a mesma coisa que espanhol. Eu falo português, you know, and then what I say is, I say, io non posso parlare molto bene italiano, soltanto leggere, that's Italian. I don't speak it very well, but I read it, I translate it. And then also, ik kan niet goed Nederlands spreken, maar zeer goed het lezen. I don't speak Dutch very well, but I sure have translated a lot of it, you know. And so anyway, the thing is, they all work the same way. All the languages do. And we have all this study that we've done for high schools and everything to show the children. I mean, the ancient Greeks, they said the Tower of Babel is going to be here forever. We're never going to be able to explain languages scientifically. When our thing was written up in the Wall Street Journal, the Defense Department said, this is the human language technology of all the languages in the world. The Greeks said, oh no, the ancient Greeks, you know, there can never be any technology. All that we can ever have is just Aristotle. He wrote some little doodles, okay? And we call that the written art. He'd make a circle, and he'd put a dot in the middle of it, and then up at the top, he'd write a line up the top of the circle and put a dot up there. He put the word he there. Then he'd, from the dot down here to another one, he put a dot up there, be his. And up from this dot to another one, be him. And then who, whose, whom, they, theirs, them, etc. And he said, because these angles are always more declining angles, I'll call this the declension of nouns, you know, okay. And so, but they said his little doodles, those are the written arts, and in Greek, we say grammatica techne in ancient Greek, the written art. And they say we're never going to have a science, a technology of it. Now, right now at Portland State University, they give PhDs in speech science, okay? And the Defense Department said this is the human language technology, but we've only got it working at the 85% level. We need to get it to 100% level. We've got it done, but the issue is for our people to get together. I mean, there's over 6,000 languages in the world. I've worked with, let me think, a total of 12, you know, and professionally, but then with a lot of others. And but the thing is that for our country to get together and do what Eisenhower said and have this worldwide interlingual telecommunications utility to let the whole world go into business with the free enterprise system of North America and see how much better that is than being enslaved by some communist party. And then this is my final point. And then that is what our beloved President Reagan said. He used to say, let's get business in, that's our culture, and government out. And and so the final point is the ancient Greeks, what they did is they took the trade that went through the Middle East and they took it to Europe and everything, and that's what they were. But the Persians, who had conquered the Babylonian Empire, what they done is they were fighting the Greeks for 200 years, and the Greeks put together all these little things to try to stop them, and they came up with grammar and everything, and they set up our system of schools and all that, and in order to stop them, what they did is they had to take the sailors, the Greek sailors, and turn them into soldiers. So this one guy, these people who said, we'll never be able to have a science of language, just our doodles, they also said, now what we need to fight the Persians, keep them from conquering us, you sailors, what is it that gets you to your destination? It's because the steering paddle that comes out of the rear end of your ship, you know, that's what gets you there, you know. And the Greek word for steering paddle is kubernion. And they said, this one guy said, my student, I've got a student, and he's the kubernion. He's getting these correct hunches, these orthodoxies that let him always win in battles, you know. And so he will be our military dictator, and that he'll be our kubernion. And then that was Alexander. But then after he passed on, the Romans came along. They couldn't say kubernion. The most they could say was gubernum. That was the closest they could get. And that was their military dictators. They were going to run the Babylonian money system, you know, there, and they brought the Babylonian money system there to Southern Europe and everything. And but then finally, when they wanted to do away with the free enterprise system of North America, they got the French, you know, to have a military dictator, Charlemagne, there to try to kill off the free enterprise system in all of the harbors of Northern Europe. They called it the Hanseatic League, and that was London was one of the headquarters of the Hanseatic League. And the French, they couldn't say gubernum, they said gouvernement, and the way you spell gouvernement is Government, okay? But that means military dictator, okay? And the point is that Reagan says, let's get business in and get military. I mean, he was the, let me see, he was the commander-in-chief, you know, but he still said, let's get government business in, and business is what produces everything, and government's what spends it. Let's get business in and government out.
Yeah. So that's the background. But going forward now, Bruce, the position, the tactical or technical position you're in right now, is that all that is wanting in order to implement your program is what?
Okay, now thank you for asking that question, okay? Because he and I, our brothers and all the rest of us, we have gone through this system that the New Englanders set up. They're going to have a elementary school in every township, you know. And as kids, we'd go there, and we're going to try and learn how to do things right. And maybe there's a lot of stupidity around, you know. I mean, people comment on the evils and everything, you know. But our little darlings, they all want to know how to do things right. So let's show them how to do it right, okay? We'll, over the internet, we'll show all of the kids in this country. This one state hired us to do it as, for their kids, you know, and we'll show all the kids how the computers translate at the 100% level, and let them go from our wonderful North American English into the 6,000 plus native languages of the world, and transfer. Make available our highest standard of living in the world to all the people of the world.
Right now, you said you translate 10. So what you put out, something that you put out, that these different people in all these different speaking all these different languages, they can all communicate back and forth with each other over the internet. Now you said you can type something up and hit a button, and it'll automatically translate it and send it to whoever you're sending.
Yeah.
So have you eliminated the language barrier in the basically in the Western world, for people to communicate business-wise?
Yeah. The thing is, one thing that we've produced is. It's this one spin-off of us is called freetranslation.com, and of late on the internet it goes from North American English into 35 languages and back, and I have a letter from the guy who started it that is based on my Wydner invention. Pardon me, I need to drink some of his water as well. Excuse me, just a moment. In the springtime, the pollen comes and gets me coughing. But so the thing is that what we have is we have this all ready to go, and but what we're doing is we want to do it the way that President Eisenhower and President Reagan said, let's do it. Not to go on out and subject people around the world to be our slaves, you know, like we're being told here, you know, that so many do, you know. The thing is to be the subjects of our emperor, you know. No, the point is we're going out, and the thing is after the, excuse me, just one more minute. Yeah, the thing is, thank you. Yeah. So the what we said we're doing here is we want the Native Americans to invite us here, but why not have the whole world invite our ancestral freedom to them? So they don't have to die from some stupid disease when they're 25 years old or something like that, you know, like their ancestors have been doing. But we transfer, here in America, our goal when we came here, when our first ancestors came here, they said the way that we'll be invited to be here is if we share our highest standard of living with them. But now, why not share it with the whole world? Because the internet will do it. The internet comes from this, you know, the ARPANET internet, it comes from this. It's not working at the 100% level, but we're getting it up there at the 100% level. But to have that working among languages, and so there's this one entity, you know, on the internet called freetranslation.com, and the point is, people, they can use it for nothing on there, but the big companies that want to use it, they can't do the 85%. They have to have the professional translators do the final 15%. And that's how freetranslation.com makes its fortune, you know, is then the professionals have to do that. But we're in a position here in America to do this so the whole world, now this is everything, the whole world can go to have our ancestral free enterprise system rather than military dictators. Gubernum, you know, okay, yeah. And so, I mean, that's what we're talking about here, you know, is people want to be the military dictators of the world. Well, you know, I guess they can whatever they want, but the people of the world, especially our darling little children, they want to learn how to think right. So let's teach them.
Well, you know, and it's interesting because you talk about military dictatorship. You see in Egypt now, and so many these military dictatorships are taking over. And I was seeing, I think in Egypt, someplace 400 or 500 people were condemned in a judicial proceedings to death for demonstrating against the government. So it's this, brother, is a big giant spotlight to put on all these people. And I tell people in this country, and it's not so in others, but we're trying to make it, I said in this country, for 220 plus years in this country, we have a single class of citizens. In this state for 150 plus years, a single class of citizens. Now everyone wasn't citizens early on, obviously, but we have a single class of citizens. If you are a citizen, if you have citizenship, like our grandmother worked so hard to get citizenship, and she beat it into our mother. You were so fortunate, Tina, you be born in the free country. But it is that, people. It is the rights of citizenships to due process, equal protection, that government cannot arbitrarily take your children, take your property, do all of this, or they're actors. All of these attorneys licensed by the state are taking people's property, taking people's children, because the people, out of their ignorance, are allowing them to do it. They're not informing themselves of what their rights are and their duties and their responsibilities. Everyone wants to talk about the right. But I said, if you're an adult, you have an absolute moral, sacred duty to your children, to your posterity, as our parents did to us, to pass on to them. Father said, he said, leave it better than you found it, son. That's,
also, there's one thing about our father, that he was such a beloved fire chief here. Just so many people loved him. But he used to say this to the people when he was speaking, you know, now when you hear a fire engine, you know, the siren and everything, the main thing we're doing isn't to go and put out a fire, it's to save lives. And today, here in Portland, we've changed it from the Portland Fire Department to Portland Fire and Rescue, okay? So that's the father that we had. And basically, we're talking about our ancestors say, our children, go out and rescue the world.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so we were so fortunate to have had that, and during being raised during World War II, that was inculcated into us every day at school. It was, we had said the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the classes. We would say we would bless the food at night, and Mother would come up and we would say our blessings in the evening. So it was a religious underpinning in our family, and where they are eliminating that in the schools and not giving that kind of and when you heard what Carolyn said, what they're doing to our children, traumatizing them. People, we cannot tolerate that. That cannot be the legacy of our generation. What Bruce's genius has opened up for the world is the ability to everyone in the world to be in contact with each other, and when you're in contact with, we're one body, we're of people, of citizenship. That's what we have. We have citizens, we have public employees. And those public employees want something from a citizen, they give them due process, people. That's the key. When I was in the district attorney's office, the police used to come in and see me because I'm a prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about these things. And I've been stunned and outraged, and that's why I've been at this all these years, to stop this abuse that's going on in our system. And I want you people listening to this, you have to join in. Join with us, all of us, that we will, leaving to our children, clean constitutional governments. Please join in that fight.